Peace, royal family, and thank you all for tuning in to another edition of the original histories of Africa and migrations of the ancient world. I am your King and Royal Majesty, Pharaoh Mitzrayim, historian, geographer, and the voice of truth. And today I will be revealing the truth on a subject. The true Ethiopians dwelt in Africa, not Asia. But before we get started, be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Let us now begin our journey to truth. Let me first state this very important message. My sole purpose for making this video is to first tell you the truth and debunk all lies that interferes with the fact that the ancestors of African Americans are the true descendants of the ancient Ethiopians and Egyptians. I am not here to feed you feel-good fantasies. I am here to wake you up to the truth and the historical reality. No more waiting for the truth. To find out about these Ethiopians in Asia, we must go to the earliest primary source that first mentions these Ethiopians in Asia. And that primary source is the one and only Herodotus the Histories, translated by A.D. Ghali, Book 7, Chapter 69 through 70, and it says in quotes, "The Arabians and the Ethiopians who dwell above Egypt had as commander Arsames. The Ethiopians of the east, for there were two kinds of them in the army, served with the Indians. These Ethiopians of Asia were for the most part armed like the Indians." According to the text we just read, Herodotus mentions two Ethiopians serving in the Persian army of Xerxes. The Ethiopians dwelling above Egypt or south of Egypt, and the Ethiopians of Asia who served with the Indians. But notice, Herodotus gives a dwelling place for the Ethiopians above Egypt and places them above Egypt or south of Egypt. But Herodotus gives no dwelling place for these Ethiopians of Asia and does not say if they dwelt south of India or above India. So the question that has to be answered is, who were the people dwelling south of India? And who were these so-called Ethiopians of Asia really? Let us continue. To find out who were the people dwelling south of India, we must go here to Herodotus the Histories, translated by A.D. Ghali, Book 3, Chapter 101, and it says in quote, "These Indians whom I have described have intercourse openly like cattle. They are all black-skinned like the Ethiopians. These Indians dwell far away from the Persians southwards." Based on the text we just read, Herodotus states that the people dwelling south of India were indeed Indians who were black-skinned like the Ethiopians and were not true Ethiopians. So now we know these so-called Ethiopians of Asia mentioned in Herodotus Book 7, Chapter 70 were actually black Indians who had the same skin color as the true Ethiopians of Libya or Africa. And this is the truth according to Herodotus. But let's continue. The key word we must focus on here is dwell. And the original Greek word for dwell is okio, which means to dwell or inhabit. And to find out where the true Ethiopians dwelt, we must first go here to Herodotus the Histories, Book 2, Chapter 29, and it says in quote, "Now in the regions above Elephantine, there dwell Ethiopians." And next we will go here to Herodotus the Histories, Book 4, Chapter 197, and it says in quote, "For the Libyans and the Ethiopians are natives. the one race dwelling in the northern parts of Libya and the other in the southern. According to the text we just read, Herodotus states the true Ethiopians dwelt south of Egypt and dwelt south of Libya. And Herodotus, in his book 4, chapter 185, south of Libya was beyond the Sahara Desert, or south of the Sahara Desert. And this south of Libya, beyond the Sahara Desert, was indeed the land of the Ethiopians. And later historians such as Diodorus and Strabo makes no mention of Ethiopians dwelling in Asia or India, but both Diodorus and Strabo mentions Ethiopians dwelling south of Egypt and south of Libya. But now we know, according to the ancient Greek historians, the true Ethiopians dwelt south of Egypt and south of Libya. And this is the truth according to Herodotus. So there it is. When the source is brought forth, the truth comes out. And when the source is present, the truth cannot be denied. And truth is, these so-called Ethiopians of Asia were indeed Indians and not true Ethiopians. And Herodotus was in error by calling these Indians Ethiopians. But Herodotus in his book 3 clarifies and corrects this error by stating the people dwelling south of India were actually Indians who had the same skin color as the Ethiopians, but not true Ethiopians. And Herodotus also states the true Ethiopians dwelt south of Egypt and dwelt south of Libya. And those who supports the theory of Ethiopians dwelling in Asia took what Herodotus said and ran with it without doing any critical research or having any proper understanding. But those who attempt to place Ethiopians in Asia have the intention of creating this fake connection between East Africa and Asia, while at the same time discrediting and taking away the true connection between East Africa and West Africa. Because truth be told, there is no land that connects East Africa with Asia, but East Africa and Asia is divided by the Red Sea, and East Africa and India is divided by the Indian Ocean. And this is the real reason why we say no Ethiopians dwelt in Asia, because originally the Ethiopians were two nations of men divided from each other, not two lands divided by sea or ocean. And although the Great Sahara Desert divides the Western Ethiopians in West Africa from the Eastern Ethiopians in East Africa, the land itself is one connected land. And both the East Ethiopians in East Africa and the West Ethiopians in West Africa are indigenous to this land. But now we know the true Ethiopians dwelt in Africa, not Asia. And with that said, this is your brother Pharaoh Mitzrayim signing out saying, until next time, Egypt stays in Africa. Peace, Ma'at, Hotep, Amen Ra, and may you all have a wonderful day.